You know, I do have to say that even with all the world's stresses, economically, politically, domestically, internationally, psychologically, right? I never seen a more crazier time in politics ever in my life. And I'm 56 next month, right? I went through the Bush administration. That was nuts. The Obama administration, which was, one of the most evil administrations ever. Then we had the mummy, Biden. Then we had the Joker, Trump. Now we have the second administration, the Trump administration. This is if you want to say the first Trump administration was, you know, Dr. Jekyll, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Hyde, this is Dr. Jekyll. This is the one of the most disastrous administrations I've ever seen on record. This is Sarah Palin on steroids, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I just a couple of days ago, I made a video about when President Trump had, of all people, Ahmed al-Shara, an international terrorist, now the president of Syria and leader of a terrorist group, Al-Qaeda in Syria, called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, apparently killing Christians and minority Muslims in Syria. Well, Trump said, hold my beer. And he invited none other than the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. That's right. They call him, there's a joke that they call him Bonesaw bin Salman because he actually gave the order to kill a U.S. journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, if you remember, just 8 years ago in 2017. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But what I want to do is play a video. Okay. And it's here he is. Crown Prince Salman. It's a 4.5 minute video. And, if it's there, you can see Mohammed bin Salman, right? Over here is Marco Rubio, JD Vance, right? I forgot who this is. But let's listen to what they had to say. Because whoever this reporter was, fucking, I would treat her to lunch and dinner for just this really upfront fucking question. What guts it took. And listen to Trump's response from it.
Prices in the mid 60s.
We are not creating a fake opportunities to, please America, please Trump. It's real opportunities. For example, when you ask about the AI and the chips, Saudi Arabia have a huge demand of, a huge need of computing power, and we're gonna spend in the short term around $50 billion by consuming those semiconductors.
I'm sorry, just to add, that wasn't the question, but it's coming up.
Because for my reasons, Saudi Arabia that will allow us to force that consumer $50 billion. So there's a lot of real opportunities that.
Here it comes.
While you're president, it concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder.
Woof. Woof.
That you were here in the
Woof.
Now, who are you? Is one of the worst.
What an answer.
My business. I have left and what I do. Business fine. They do business. I'm sure they could do a lot. And anything they've done has been very good. In this business for a long time. I've been be behind and make America very successful.
Meanwhile, he's facing numerous civil suits.
Was. And then it never could have been no matter what. $21 trillion, that I can tell you right now. As far as a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was the gentleman that you're talking about, whether you like him or didn't like him, he knew nothing about it. And we can just yes, Mr. President, to answer. I think, the families of in America, but we have to focus that Osama bin Laden used Saudi people and that this is to destroy the union.
Wrong.
Like heaven.
He's wrong.
So we're lying that the purpose is to evil. And for extremism, it's bad for terrorism. And we have to prove them wrong and to critical against extremism and terrorism. The difference is painful to hear, no real purpose. It's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia. Investigation, etc. on Saudi Arabia.
False.
That nothing happened like that.
In helping lifting the sanctions on Syria. Would there be any joint investment between the No, but where you go?
Palestinians Palestinians are doing very well, actually. I think they're working very closely with a lot of people that they can.
This guy's delusional.
I will tell you, Crown Prince called me, and he wants to see Syria.
Of course he does. And I'll tell you why.
And he's a strong guy. And
Okay. Wow, there's a lot to fucking unpack right here. Okay, so for one, 9/11. All right, let's tackle that, of course, right? Okay, Saudi Arabia was implicated for their role in for the 9/11 attacks, of course, through the FBI investigation, the original one through PEMPA. But later on, there was a group of FBI agents that weren't really satisfied with with the State Department's covering up under Bush and Obama, right? The administrations themselves in covering up Saudi complicity for the 9/11 attacks. And for years, they kept these documents hidden. Now, one of the good things under the Biden administration was he signed Executive Order 104041, and that is Operation Encore, which was a follow-up to the pet bomb investigation. There was a group of FBI agents that basically were not satisfied with the findings and the classified documents, still classified from the public, regarding Saudi complicity for 9/11 attacks. Now, one such document shows that there was an infiltration in the Islamic centers in the United States through a group called Al Qaeda. Now, here's a document stating that here, I'll read it for you. We could read it together. At this point in the investigation, there are a number of different scenarios in which the foreign power involved could be Al Qaeda, Saudi Arabia, specifically the Ministry of Islamic Affairs, or both. The group that Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, two of the 9/11 hijackers that were involved with the hijacking of Flight 77 that crashed in the Pentagon, who were living in the United States, were able to exploit or utilize could be one, a group of Al Qaeda operatives who have infiltrated the Ministry of Islamic Affairs and were unbeknownst to the Saudi government, utilizing the resources of the ministry for their own objectives. The head of that ministry was Muwasset al-Jarrah, the overseer of the 9/11 operation. He's the one who sent emissaries from Saudi Arabia to oversee the financial and logistical support to Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, the first two hijackers in the United States, and later on, Hani Hanjour, right? Two, a radical element within the Ministry of Islamic Affairs unaffiliated with Al Qaeda or a collaboration of Al Qaeda operatives. Now, this just shows that the Saudi ministry itself was either infiltrated by Al Qaeda or had a sympathizer for Al Qaeda within it. But it was backed by the Saudi government unbeknownst, right? But later on, that would change because it was known to the Saudi government, at least through their spies, like Omar al-Bayoumi, Fahad al-Tameri, Osama Basnan, and Muwasset al-Jarrah, all working for, at some level, the Saudi government. Okay, they were paid. They were ghost employees for certain companies, including Omar al-Bayoumi being a ghost employee for Dal Avco. There were payments made by a very influential U.S. Saudi ambassador, Bandar bin Sultan, who was close friends with the Bush family. Payments that were made from his wife's bank account, Haifa bin Faisal, through their bank, Riggs Bank, that went to, and in the end, the bank accounts or the hands of Khalid al-Madar and the Wafa husband. Okay, that's just one area. So we have numerous connections. Now, the Trump administration. Well, how does this affect the Trump administration? Because now here we have the Trump administration. I'm talking about the first and second one, not so much the second one. Talk about the first one. Okay, the first 4 years. Now, the first Trump administration, he made a lot of promises, basically saying that he was going to release the 9/11 documents. Second time around, I'm going to release all the 9/11 documents. Hasn't released shit. Hasn't done shit. Okay. Now, need I remind you that it was the Trump administration that at the last second made a deal with the 9/11 victims' families and then reneged on that deal through his Attorney General, Richard Barr. Here's an account. This is 2020. Attorney General Richard Barr refuses to release 9/11 documents to families of the victims before they went to the Southern District of New York to sue the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Okay. Crown Prince bin Salman was the Crown Prince back then. And there was a lot of pressure under Saudi Arabia to get civil suit by the 9/11 victims' families who are looking for billions of dollars, by the way. Okay. There's Richard Barr. The move comes after Donald Trump promised to help the families who accuse Saudi Arabia of complicity in attacks, where Richard Barr says he cannot even explain why the material must stay secret without putting national security at risk. And there was no national security at risk. All right. It'll basically show that there are certain members of the Saudi government that were financing the 9/11 attacks. 16 of the 19 hijackers are from Saudi Arabia, mostly the muscle hijackers. Okay? Yet here he is meeting with Crown Prince bin Salman in the White House, where just a week prior, he had another terrorist, Ahmed al-Shara, Mohammed bin al-Jalani, in the White House, and he visited him in Syria. Two terrorists who have a connection. And that connection is they are of the Wahhabi creed. Now, what is the Wahhabi creed, for those who don't know? The essence of Saudi Arabia was created on Wahhabism. Okay, this very unabridged, unnatural form of Islam. That's basically just a bunch of nomads, bunch of inbreds, illiterates that wanted to go back to the 2nd century of the Prophet Muhammad, the caravan of sorts. Now, the nation of Saudi Arabia is built on Wahhabism, which is a very small percentage of the global Muslim population generally, okay? And what they do is they propagate their doctrine internationally through Saudi government-funded transnational organizations such as the Muslim World League. Okay, that's just one area. There's a number of areas. They have connections to the Muslim Brotherhood, Al Qaeda, the Islamic State in Levant, because all of these Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, all of these connections are connected to the ideology which is Wahhabism. All right, now. Mohammed bin Salman and Ahmed al-Shara, the president of Syria, are people who despise a branch of Islam, which is the minority, which is Shia. Now, what does this have to do with Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia? Right? We know about Ahmed al-Shara, who are currently killing minorities in Syria, who currently is the split between Lebanon and Iran. Now, let me go a little bit a step further. In earlier this year, Mohammed bin Salman named Salih al-Fawzan as the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia. He's a longtime student of the longest running Grand Mufti in Saudi Arabia, Ibn Baz. He's from the Wahhabi Salafi background. All right. And al-Fawzan has a long history of being a very critical of Shia Muslims. He calls them the brothers of Satan. And he also went on record to state that, quote, they lie about God, the prophet, and the consensus of Muslims, end quote. He basically calls for the death of Shia Muslims. He said that, which is, a number of years ago, he said that slavery is a part of Islam, which is not. He says that public demonstrations are haram, which is, to be against. All right. Guess who was also against public demonstrations and criticisms? Mohammed bin Salman. The House of Saud, Wahhabism, Mohammed bin Salman, and every other king in Saudi Arabia are not ideologically affiliated with Shia Muslims. The essence of every terrorist group, whether it be Al Qaeda, whether it be the Islamic State Levant, whether it be Abu Sayyaf and all past or current organizations currently, right? Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, they hate Shia Muslims more than they hate Jews, atheists, such as myself, polytheists, and Christians. In fact, in the war in Syria, the Islamic State would slaughter Shia Muslims, Sufis, Alawites, okay, Twelvers. These are all the branches of Muslims and all the different beliefs. And they hate the Shia Muslim. They call them Munafiq, which is fake Muslim, a fake Muslim in Arabic. So he was named the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia. Why? Because what's going to happen in the future, I think, is that Saudi Arabia and the Gulf, by extension, that's Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, right, and Syria, are going to be the buffer zone between Hezbollah in Lebanon and Iran. And when the next war comes out, and this will be through a terrorist attack, I think, that the United States will conduct war against Iran, because that's what the Zionists in Israel want. That's what the Kahanists want. That's what Saudi Arabia wants. That's what the Gulf wants. That's what the CIA wants. And that's what the State Department wants. And these all interests align with each other politically. You ever notice all the war and terror, most of the people that are being killed are Shia Muslims. Now, there have been some Arabs that are, been slaughtered in process, Afghanistan, Libya, right? But Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Gaza, right? You have a mixture of Muslims that are being killed. But there's a quick religious divide here. Now, let's go back to another point. Jamal Khashoggi, okay? Now, a couple of years ago, Jamal Khashoggi was a reporter for I think the Washington Post, was murdered. He was brutally murdered, was dismembered and beheaded, okay? And it was done on the orders of Mohammed bin Salman. And here's the article that CIA concludes Saudi Crown Prince ordered Jamal Khashoggi's assassination. That's what they came up with. And it was given to the Trump administration. And, it basically said the CIA concluded that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi in Istanbul last month, contradicting the Saudi government's claim that he was not involved in the killing, according to people familiar with the matter. But the CIA's assessment, in which officials have said they have high confidence in, is the moral definitive to date, linking Mohammed to the operation and complicates the Trump administration's efforts to preserve its relationship with Saudi Arabia. A team of 15 Saudi agents flew to Istanbul on government aircraft government aircraft and killed Khashoggi inside the Saudi consulate, right? And in reaching its conclusion, the CIA examined multiple sources of intelligence, including a phone call. Probably the NSA was involved in this, between the Crown Prince's brother, Khalid bin Salman, who was the Saudi ambassador to the United States. According to the people familiar with the matter, who spoke on conditions of anonymity to discuss the intelligence, that Khalid told Khashoggi that he should go to the Saudi consulate in Istanbul to retrieve the documents and give him assurances that it would be safe to do so, and he was killed there. And Trump lied, right, just in that video, basically saying, oh, he didn't know anything about it. It's not true. See, I knew that he knew about it because his brother was involved in the operation. Okay. You Trump voters, supporters, I know you're in a rift, and it starts with Israel. Okay. Some of you are just anti-Jews. You're anti-Semites. I mean, first of all, drop that. I'm not with that. I'm a huge critic of the Israeli government. Damn straight. Anytime you have Kahanists in your war cabinet, like that fool Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, you're going to get my condemnation. In the same sense, you're going to get my same condemnation with these Wahhabi monsters in the Saudi kingdom. Now, yes, bin Salman is a reformer. Okay. He has to be, because after 9/11, it was the State Department here in the United States that basically pressured the Saudi government, saying, all right, you got to stop this shit in supporting these Islamist groups that you've been doing since the 90s. And they were paying them blackmail, like Al-Qaeda and bin Laden, paying them blackmail money not to attack, because bin Laden hated Saudi Arabia. Yes, he hated them, but not to ruin the relation between Saudi Arabia and the United States, but because he saw the Saudi kingdom as being too westernized, because they invited the U.S. military to guard Mecca and Medina, because Saudi military has no military. The military is shit. And because Saudi Arabia and the United States has a decades-long history, the United States, of course, is willing to basically use them as a military stopper, protect their interests. And so bin Laden, which has a number of grievances against the United States, that was just one. But even Crown Prince bin Salman lied about that too. And look, I know you Trump supporters, God's sakes, you're hypocrites, right? In the same fashion, just like the Democrats. But in this case, you actually called the mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani, a terrorist. He's a Shia Muslim, by the way. He hates Wahhabis. He would be the opposite. You say that he's going to invite the Muslim Brotherhood. No, your president of the United States just invited two of the leading emirs of terrorism, Mohammed bin Salman and Ahmed al-Shara. One, an international terrorist that was on the rewards poster for $10 million just a couple of months ago. And of course, the essence of Wahhabism, the ideology behind every Islamic terrorist group, Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia. Say what you want, but you're hypocrites. And you can't wrap your heads around what's going on right now because you don't know what to think. So either you're going to criticize Trump for being a hypocrite, or you're going to defend Trump and say these people are normalizing their moderates now. Meanwhile, just look at their actions and their deeds. Your president, Donald Trump, continues to protect Saudi Arabia from being civil suited by the 9/11 victims' families through the law firms like Motley Rice and Kreindler. Okay. Southern District of New York just recently overturned that option, said that now we can accept classified documents from the FBI implicating Saudi Arabia for the civil suit to continue forward. Even though the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia said, no, don't do it. Okay. Your president, Donald Trump, is hosting terrorists in the White House. Now, why is he doing this? You're asking yourself, why? Why was he doing this? To basically normalize relations with the group of people that would be against Iran and Lebanon. And to also ensure there would be no impediment of the new Israel that's going to expand, using Gaza as the forefront. Most of the Palestinians are either going to go to Egypt and Jordan and Lebanon, but now they're going to go back to Gaza City. That'll be reconstructed with the United States government being flatly behind it. At the same time, the United States government is trying to normalize relations between Saudi Arabia and the Gulf in the hopes of a profitable business. It's all about money, nothing else. Billions of dollars. To you, the American people? To you, Trump supporters? No, to him and his pockets and people under him. His interests, not yours. Because he's saying, go fuck yourself by having these monsters in the White House. Fuck America first. Fuck MAGA. Fuck your idea of patriotism. Fuck your idea of nationalism. And fuck you. That's what he's saying. And if you have any respect for yourself, you'll finally understand that even if Trump wasn't in the White House and say it was Harris or say it was Biden or any other leftists, that nothing would fundamentally change. Domestically, maybe there would be differences, but not in terms of high price rates. Those are going up. The banking industry is still going to make their profits. The CEO is going to get bailed out if there ever was a crash again. But you, the voter, you're going to get screwed. So am I. But yet we're going to look at each other like the enemy. And I keep telling you this in almost every video now. It's repetitive. You're not the enemy. You're just propagandized. You're a victim of propaganda. Snap out of it. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. He has monsters in the White House. Two of the worst in the Middle East. If that doesn't make you wake up, nothing will. I don't know what to tell you. This is not black and white. This is all gray area. Things are up, they're in the reverse. What was good is now bad. What was bad is now good. Nothing seems to make sense anymore. Let's just hope we don't make the same mistakes again, like we did before 9/11. Because what came after 9/11 was much worse than 9/11. If you get what I mean. All right. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. Take care.